fragile illusion of continuity. You wake up each morning believing you are the same person you were yesterday, the same identity, the same self, the same I. But this is an illusion, because the self is not continuous. It is fragments, stitched together by memory, by habit, by the fragile story you tell yourself. Think about it. The child you once were, their fears, their desires, their thoughts, is gone. The teenager you were, their voice, their body, their emotions, gone. Even who you were last year, last month, last week, already slipping. You carry memories of these selves, but memory is not identity. Memory is a reconstruction, a guess, a fragile recording that rewrites itself each time you recall it. You do not remember the past, you remember the last time you remembered it, and slowly the chain distorts until the you believe you are is nothing but a story you keep editing. This is why philosophers questioned whether the self even exists. David Hume looked inside himself and found not a stable self, but only a bundle of perceptions, always changing, always dissolving. Buddhism, long before, declared the same. There is no permanent self, only impermanence, only flow. What you call I is not a thing, it is a process, and processes change. But your mind cannot accept this. It craves continuity. It cannot endure the thought that you are not the same being as yesterday. So it tells you a story. It invents a thread. It binds fragments together into the illusion of one stable identity. This is why you look in the mirror and say, that is me. Even though the face changes, the cells replace themselves, the voice shifts. What you really see is a mask of continuity, a fragile lie. The truth is darker. You die every moment. The you of yesterday is already gone. The you of today will vanish by tomorrow. And the only thing connecting them is memory, a memory that is already flawed. Continuity is illusion. Identity is illusion. The self you believe in does not exist. And yet, without this illusion, you could not survive. If you truly felt the discontinuity, you would collapse. If you truly faced the fact that you are only a chain of fragments, you would lose the ability to act, to plan, to care. Continuity is false, but continuity is necessary. So you keep telling the story, you keep pretending, you keep living as if the I you feel is real. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: there is no stable self. There is only the illusion of one. You are not the same person who began this moment, and by the time it ends, you will not be the same as now. You will call them all you, but they are gone. They are always gone, and the you cling to is only a ghost, carried forward by memory, already vanishing into silence. The mirrors lie. You believe you know yourself. You believe you can look inward or into a mirror and say, that is me. But this too is illusion, because the mirror does not show you yourself. It shows you a reflection, a reversed, flattened image, distorted by light. And worse, it shows you from the outside, a body, a face, a mask. You never see yourself directly. From birth, you build an identity by watching yourself as if you were another person. As a child, you see your reflection and learn the word me. But the me you see is already a lie. The mirror shows what others see, not what you are. The reflection is always external, always outside, always alien. You know your face only as others know it. You carry yourself like a stranger, identified by surfaces, never by essence. And you cling to the lie of the mirror because you cannot face the truth. You will never meet yourself. Think about it. You can see your hands, but not your eyes except as reflections. You can hear your voice, but never as others hear it. You can feel your body, but never from outside it. Every image you have of yourself comes secondhand. Every sense of identity is borrowed, mediated, externalized. And so the self you believe in is stitched from lies. The mirrors lie, the cameras lie, the gaze of others, the masks you wear. You think you know who you are, but you only know the echoes. Philosophers and psychoanalysts noticed this strangeness. Jacques Lacan called it the mirror stage, the moment an infant sees its reflection and begins to form an ego. But that ego is not truth. It is an image, a fiction of wholeness, a story you construct around an external picture. The self begins as illusion, and it never becomes more than illusion. This is why you obsess over how you appear. You worry about your face, your body, your voice. You rehearse your gestures. You ask, how do I look? How do I sound? What do they see? You never live as yourself. You live as the version you imagine in the mirror of their eyes. Even in solitude, you are haunted by the reflection. But here's the cruelty. You cannot escape the mirror because you cannot exist without it. Without an image, you are formless. Without the gaze, you dissolve. Without the mirror, you cannot even say, I. The mirror is a lie, but it is the lie that sustains you. Now ask yourself, what is the real you? The body in the mirror, the self in memory, the face others see, the voice you hear inside your skull? There is no single answer. There is no real you. There is only fragmentation, shifting with perspective, refracted through reflection. You are not one. You are many, and none of them is final. This is why photographs unsettle you, because you see yourself as others see you, not the reversed image you are used to. The angles, the proportions, the small asymmetries, alien, unfamiliar. You feel betrayed by your own face, but the betrayal is the truth. You never had one face. You never had one self. You are only the sum of reflections, endlessly multiplied, endlessly distorted. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: you do not know yourself. You never will, because the you see is always a mask, always an image, always a reflection in glass, in memory, in the gaze of others. The mirror lies, the camera lies, the eyes of others lie. But the greatest lie is the one you tell yourself, that behind all of these, there is a single, stable you. There is not. There never was. The problem of other minds. You look at the people around you, assume they are conscious. You see them laugh, cry, suffer, rejoice. You assume they feel as you feel. But how do you know? You know your own mind directly. You feel your own thoughts, your own pain, your own hunger, your own joy, but you do not feel theirs. You only see bodies, you only see movements, you only see behavior. You never see consciousness. This is the problem of other minds. You cannot prove that anyone else is truly conscious. The people around you may not feel anything at all. They may only mimic. They may only perform. They may only be empty shells, puppets, machines made of flesh. Philosophers call this the problem of solipsism, the possibility that you are the only conscious being in existence. Think about it. When someone tells you they are in pain, what do you actually see? A wince, a scream, a word, it hurts. But does that prove they feel it, or are you only watching an imitation? A robot could be built to say the same words, to make the same face, to scream the same sound. Would you believe it suffers? How do you know the people around you are not also robots, but biological instead of mechanical? How do you know they are not acting without awareness? Science cannot solve this. It can show you brains, neurons, signals, chemicals. It can measure patterns, behaviors, responses, but it cannot show you consciousness itself. Consciousness is private, locked, invisible. You only know it in yourself. Everything else is guesswork. And here's the cruelty. You cannot live with this doubt, but you cannot escape it either. You cannot prove others are conscious, but you cannot treat them as if they are not. So you choose belief. You act as if they are real. You build relationships, families, societies on this assumption. But it remains an assumption. This is why loneliness cuts so deeply, because deep down, you sense it. You are sealed in your own mind. You cannot share your thoughts directly. You cannot step into another's experience. You cannot escape the prison of your own subjectivity. Even in love, even in intimacy, even in moments of unity, the barrier remains. You never really know what the other feels. What if you are alone? What if the world is a theater and everyone else is an actor with no awareness? What if all the smiles, all the words, all the tears are hollow? Performances in a play written only for you. You cannot disprove it. You cannot escape it. And maybe that is the most terrifying possibility of all. Not that you will die alone, but that you have always been alone. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: you can only know one mind, your own. Everyone else is guesswork. Everyone else is assumption. Everyone else may be empty. You may be the only consciousness in existence, trapped in a world of shadows, surrounded by puppets, forever alone. The infinite regress of knowledge, you believe you know things, that some truths are solid, that knowledge gives you stability. But every claim to knowledge hides a bottomless trap, the trap of infinite regress. When you say, I know this is true, the question follows, how do you know? You give a reason, but then another question, and how do you know that reason is true? So you give another, and another, and another. Each justification demands another justification. Every answer leads to another question, and the chain never ends. Philosophers have wrestled with this for millennia, Aristotle, Plato, Descartes, Kant all searched for a foundation, a starting point beyond question, something so self-evident it could not be doubted. But every foundation cracks. Every certainty trembles. Every obvious truth can be doubted. Think of sight. You say, I know the world exists because I see it. But how do you know your sight is reliable? Because it has worked before. But how do you know the past proves the future? You say, I know because reason tells me so. But how do you know reason itself is valid? Because it seems consistent. But why trust consistency? Every proof demands a deeper proof, and no final proof ever arrives. This is the regress. Knowledge collapses into endless questioning. Either you circle back in a loop, justifying a belief with itself, or you stop the chain arbitrarily and call it self-evident, or you keep going forever, never reaching ground. None of these give certainty. None escape the regress. This is why skepticism never dies, because every claim can be doubted, every truth can be undermined, every foundation can be questioned. You may live as if knowledge is stable, but beneath it, the abyss of regress is always open. And here is the cruelty. Even the belief, I exist, can be shaken. Descartes tried to stop the regress there. I think, therefore I am. But what if the thought itself is illusion? What if the I is not stable? What if existence itself cannot be proven? Even the most basic truths can dissolve in doubt. So what remains? You can keep asking forever until exhaustion replaces certainty, or you can stop somewhere arbitrary and pretend the foundation is solid. But either way, the regress is real. Knowledge is never absolute. Every truth rests on another and another and another without end. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. Knowledge has no bottom. Truth has no final ground. Every certainty you cling to is built on endless chains of reasons that never arrive. You believe you stand on solid rock, but beneath your feet, there is only an abyss, infinite, silent, and bottomless. The trap of language, you believe words reveal reality. That language is a window into truth, that when you speak, you express what is real inside you. But language is not a window, it is a wall. And behind that wall, reality slips away. Every word is a symbol, not the thing itself, but a sign pointing to it. You say tree, but the sound is not wood or leaves or shade. You say love, but the word is not the trembling, the ache, the fire inside your chest. You say I, but the word is not your existence. Words are not reality. They are shadows, abstractions, cages. Philosophers saw this clearly. Ludwig Wittgenstein said, the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. You cannot think outside language. You cannot imagine beyond the categories words allow. Reality may be infinite, but you see only the fragments your words can name. And worse, language deceives. Because once you name something, you believe you understand it. You say time and think you know what time is. You say self and believe there is a self. You say truth and imagine it exists. But these words may only hide ignorance. They make you feel safe, while veiling the fact that you do not know. Language comforts you with illusions of understanding, and language traps you further because the words you use are not yours. They are given by history, by culture, by others. You speak in a tongue not of your choosing, and so even your thoughts are not entirely your own. Language thinks for you. When you speak, it is not pure expression. It is repetition, echoes of other voices, other times, other illusions. You are trapped inside the system of words, and the system shapes the very way you see reality. Even silence is not escape, because silence only makes sense in contrast to language. Silence is defined as not speaking, and so even silence belongs to the trap. There is no outside. There is no pure thought untouched by words. This is why mystics fall into paradox. They try to speak of what lies beyond language, the divine, the infinite, the unspeakable. But in speaking, they betray it. Their words collapse. Their truth dissolves into contradictions, because language cannot hold what is beyond it. And yet, without language, we cannot even try to point. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. Language does not reveal reality. It distorts it. It cages it. It makes you mistake the sign for the thing, the shadow for the light, the word for the truth. You're not thinking freely. You are trapped in grammar, in categories, in a net of symbols woven long before you were born. And even now, as you hear these words, you are caught inside the trap. There is no way out. The paradox of memory. You believe your past defines you. That memory is the thread holding your life together. that what you remember is who you are. But memory is not a record. It is a reconstruction, a story your mind tells again and again, and rewrites each time. You think memory is like a book in your mind waiting to be opened, but it is more like a painting you keep repainting. Each time you recall, you alter, you reshape. You erase details and invent new ones. What you remember is not the past. It is the last version of the story you told yourself. Neuroscience confirms this cruelty. Memories are not stored like files. They are networks, fragile, flexible, shifting. To remember is to rebuild. And in rebuilding, you distort. So the memory you trust most, the one that feels sharp, vivid, undeniable, may be the most false. The paradox is this: the more you remember, the less reliable the memory becomes. And yet, memory is all you have. You believe you are continuous because you remember being a child, a teenager, an adult. But that continuity is built on fragile recollections, fragments, fictions. Without memory, identity dissolves. But with memory, identity is distorted. You cannot escape the paradox. Memory both sustains you and betrays you. Think of nostalgia. The childhood you miss never existed the way you recall it. The warmth, the innocence, the simplicity, all inventions. Polished fragments of truth woven into illusion. Think of trauma. The past that haunts you may not be the past as it happened, but the past as your mind reshaped it, sharpened, twisted, replayed. Think of love. The person you remember, the relationship you cling to no longer exists. You remember echoes edited again and again until they bear little resemblance to the truth. And yet, without these illusions, you cannot live. Because without memory, there is no self, no story, no identity. You cannot define who you are except by telling the tale of what you were. Even if the tale is false, even if it is only fragments, even if it is already fading. This is why dementia terrifies so deeply, not simply because the brain fails, but because memory slips away. And as memory slips, the self dissolves until only fragments remain, and then even those vanish. Without memory, there is no I. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: your past is not real. It exists only as memory, and memory is a liar. You are built on distortions, on reconstructions, on fragile illusions you call truth. And so the story you tell yourself about who you are is already fiction, already rewritten, already vanishing. The invisibility of the present. You tell yourself to live in the moment, to be here, now. But the moment is an illusion, because by the time you notice it, it is already gone. The present is supposed to be the one thing you can hold. The past has vanished. The future has not arrived. Only the present exists. But try to find it. Close your eyes. Search for now. Try to hold it still. It slips through you. By the time you name it, it is already past. By the time you feel it, it has already dissolved. The present is invisible. Philosophers and mystics wrestled with this for centuries. St. Augustine asked, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I try to explain, I do not know." He realized the present cannot be measured. It shrinks to nothing, a razor-thin line between past and future. Buddhism speaks of impermanence. Every moment arises and vanishes instantly. There is no lasting now. There is only flux. And physics agrees, the present has no privileged existence. What is now for you is not now for someone moving differently. Time has no universal present. You comfort yourself by pretending the present is real, that you can be here now. But what you live is always already memory. Your brain takes time to process light, sound, sensation. Every perception lags. Every now is a fraction of a second too late. You do not live in the present. You live in the past, and the future invades too. Every action you take is for what comes next. You eat to avoid hunger later. You work for money tomorrow. You speak for the response that has not yet arrived. You live projected forward, always leaning out of the present into the future. So you do not live in the present. You live in anticipation. This is why you are restless, because you chase a now that never appears. You long to hold a moment still, but the instant you grasp it, it dies. The present is a ghost, always disappearing, always out of reach. And yet, without this illusion, you could not live, because if you felt the vanishing fully, you would collapse into despair. You would feel the impossibility of now. You would see time as pure disappearance, and yourself dissolving with it. So you pretend. You breathe as if it is now. You speak as if you are here. You live as if the present exists. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: the present is never real. It is a knife's edge between absence and anticipation. By the time you see it, it is gone. By the time you live it, you are already too late. You do not live in the present. You only live in the ruins of the past and the shadow of the future. The now you seek is invisible, and you will never find it. The invisibility of the present. You tell yourself to live in the moment, to be here, now. But the moment is an illusion, because by the time you notice it, it is already gone. The present is supposed to be the one thing you can hold. The past has vanished, the future has not arrived. Only the present exists, but try to find it. Close your eyes, search for now. Try to hold it still, it slips through you. By the time you name it, it is already past. By the time you feel it, it has already dissolved. The present is invisible. Philosophers and mystics wrestled with this for centuries. St. Augustine asked, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know. If I try to explain, I do not know." He realized the present cannot be measured. It shrinks to nothing, a razor-thin line between past and future. Buddhism speaks of impermanence. Every moment arises and vanishes instantly. There is no lasting now. There is only flux. And physics agrees, the present has no privileged existence. What is now for you is not now for someone moving differently. Time has no universal present. You comfort yourself by pretending the present is real, that you can be here now. But what you live is always already memory. Your brain takes time to process light, sound, sensation. Every perception lags. Every now is a fraction of a second too late. You do not live in the present, you live in the past, and the future invades too. Every action you take is for what comes next. You eat to avoid hunger later. You work for money tomorrow. You speak for the response that has not yet arrived. You live projected forward, always leaning out of the present into the future. So you do not live in the present. You live in anticipation. This is why you are restless, because you chase a now that never appears. You long to hold a moment still, but the instant you grasp it, it dies. The present is a ghost, always disappearing, always out of reach. And yet, without this illusion, you could not live. Because if you felt the vanishing fully, you would collapse into despair. You would feel the impossibility of now. You would see time as pure disappearance and yourself dissolving with it. So you pretend. You breathe as if it is now. You speak as if you are here. You live as if the present exists. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: the present is never real. It is a knife's edge between absence and anticipation. By the time you see it, it is gone. By the time you live it, you are already too late. You do not live in the present. You only live in the ruins of the past and the shadow of the future. The now you seek is invisible, and you will never find it. The illusion of free thought. You believe your thoughts are yours, that your mind is a private sanctuary, that the ideas inside you arise from freedom. But your thoughts are not free. They are echoes, reflections, shadows planted by forces you do not control. Every word you think in is borrowed. You did not invent your language. It was given to you. And with it came categories, boundaries, ways of seeing. You do not think outside language. Language thinks for you. Your desires too are not your own. The things you want are shaped by culture, by history, by biology. You crave food, love, status, success. But why? Because millions of years of evolution shaped your instincts. Because centuries of culture carved your ideals. Because society whispers what is valuable and you listen without realizing. You think you choose freely, but what you choose was already chosen for you. Even rebellion is not freedom. When you defy society, when you break the rules, when you insist you are independent, you are still reacting, still defined by the very thing you resist, still trapped in its shadow. Your rebellion is not free. It is dependence disguised as defiance. And here is the cruelty. You cannot think without influence. You cannot desire without inheritance. You cannot escape the forces that built you. Every thought you call your own is stitched from pieces that came before you. Voices of parents, teachers, strangers, philosophers, ancestors. Biological drives buried deep in flesh. Cultural myths disguised as personal truths. You are not the author. You are the collage. Philosophers sense this. Nietzsche warned that even your morality is not your own, but the product of herd instinct, shaped by history and power. Marx declared that your ideas are determined by material conditions, by class, by economy, by struggle. Freud exposed how your unconscious desires speak through you long before your conscious will can intervene. Your mind is not free. It is a battlefield of influences, and yet you cling to the illusion, because to believe your thoughts are not your own is unbearable. It means you are not sovereign. It means you are not original. It means you are not free. So you pretend. You speak as if your words are yours. You desire as if your cravings are chosen. You think as if your thoughts are free. But deep down you sense it. The songs in your head are not your compositions. The beliefs you hold are not your discoveries. The dreams you chase are not born in silence, but in noise older than you. You are not the thinker. You are the echo. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. There is no free thought. There is only borrowed thought, inherited thought, recycled thought. The freedom you feel is an illusion. And the mind you call your own is already haunted by voices that are not you. The observer's paradox. You want to understand life, so you step back, you reflect, you observe yourself. But the moment you observe, you are no longer living. You have already stepped outside, and what you see is not life, but a version of it frozen under your gaze. Consciousness is not a mirror, it is a distortion. When you live without thinking, running, laughing, crying, touching, you are immersed, unbroken. But when you turn your attention inward, you split. You become both actor and audience, the one who lives and the one who watches. And what you watch is never pure, because in watching, you alter it. This is the observer's paradox. The act of observing life changes it. When you try to be natural, you are no longer natural. When you try to be authentic, you are already performing authenticity. When you try to grasp yourself, you have already become two, the self that acts and the self that observes. There is no pure self, only the self seen through reflection. Think of how you behave when no one is around. Then think of how you change when someone enters the room. Now realize the same shift happens when you watch yourself. Even alone, your own gaze alters you. Even in silence, your reflection contaminates the moment. You are never simply yourself. You are always a performance, even for your own eyes. Philosophers and psychologists caught this paradox. William James described consciousness as a stream, but whenever you stop to observe the stream, you freeze its flow. Sartre wrote of the self as a project always escaping itself, never fully captured, never fully seen. Heidegger warned that reflection always falsifies because it tears being out of its natural flow. Observation is distortion. And yet, you cannot stop, because without observation, you do not call it life. Without reflection, you cannot name, understand, remember. Without self-awareness, you are lost in pure instinct. So you are trapped. To live without reflecting is to be blind. To reflect is to lose life as it is. This is why you feel split. Part of you acts, part of you watches, part of you lives, part of you judges. You are never whole. You are always divided, fractured, doubled. And the more you seek to understand, the more you fracture. The more you observe, the less you live. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. You cannot see yourself without distortion. You cannot observe life without changing it. You cannot hold existence without breaking it apart. To look is to alter. To observe is to falsify. To understand is to lose what you wanted to grasp. You will never meet yourself as you are, because the moment you try, you are no longer the same. The void of infinite space, look up at the night sky. What do you see? Stars scattered like dust, light traveling for millions of years to reach you. A universe so vast that your mind cannot hold it. And then the thought strikes. You are smaller than a grain of sand. You are less than a breath. You are nothing in the void of infinite space. Pascal wrote of this terror centuries ago. The eternal silence of these infinite spaces frightens me. Because the silence is not only around you, it is inside you. The silence of insignificance. The realization that the universe is not made for you, that it does not know you, that it does not care if you live or die. For most of history, humans believed the cosmos had meaning, that the stars were arranged with purpose, that heaven looked down, that the universe bent toward us. But science ripped this away. The earth is not the center. The stars are not lamps of destiny. You are not chosen. You are a brief accident on a small rock orbiting a small star in a forgotten corner of one galaxy among billions. The void makes everything collapse. Your struggles, your ambitions, your victories and defeats, all of it erased by the scale of infinity. all of it swallowed by silence. You imagine yourself important, but the cosmos does not notice. You imagine your life matters, but the universe does not care. You imagine meaning, but in the void, meaning is dust, and yet you cannot escape it, because every time you look at the stars, you feel both awe and dread. Awe at their beauty, dread at your nothingness. The void is not only vast, it is indifferent. You are not watched, you are not guided, you are not remembered. You exist alone briefly in an abyss that will forget you. This is why infinity terrifies, because your mind craves boundaries. It wants to say, this is the whole, this is all there is. But space has no walls. Time has no end. You cannot grasp infinity, and you cannot escape it either. You are trapped in a reality too vast to comprehend, too empty to comfort, too silent to justify you. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: you are not central. You are not necessary. You are not even visible against the void. Your life, your loves, your pain, your triumphs, all vanish against the backdrop of infinite space. And when you are gone, the universe will continue, silent, endless, indifferent. The stars will burn, the galaxies will drift, the void will remain, and you will not. The uselessness of truth. You spend your life searching for truth. You believe that if you uncover it, the real truth, the final truth, it will save you, that it will give meaning, that it will bring peace, that it will justify your existence. But ask yourself, even if you found truth, what difference would it make? Imagine you learned the absolute truth about the universe, that it is infinite, that it is mechanical, that it is meaningless. Would you be free, or would you collapse? What if the truth is unbearable? What if the truth brings no comfort, no clarity, no salvation, only silence? You think of truth as treasure, but truth may be poison, because truth does not care about you. Truth does not bend to your hopes. Truth is not built for comfort. The universe is not obligated to give you a truth you can survive. And even if truth existed, what would you do with it? Would it change the fact that you will die? Would it erase the way to freedom? Would it rescue you from despair? No. Truth would not stop time. Truth would not save love from fading. Truth would not prevent death. Truth would not change the structure of existence itself. This is why some philosophers doubted whether truth is worth seeking at all. Nietzsche warned, humans do not really want truth. They want illusions that help them live. They want veils, masks, consolations. Truth in its rawest form would destroy them. Wittgenstein declared, even if we could state the truth of the world perfectly, it would still leave the problem of life untouched. Truth describes, but it does not redeem. Camus whispered, even the truth of the absurd, that life has no meaning, offers no solution. It only sharpens the silence. And here is the cruelty. Even if you knew the truth, you would still suffer. Even if you knew the truth, you would still die. Even if you knew the truth, you would still be alone in your mind, waiting for silence. Truth does not save. Truth does not justify. Truth is useless. So why do you chase it? Because illusion cannot hold forever. Because masks crack. Because the hunger for truth is written into you, even though truth itself offers nothing. You are cursed to search for what cannot help you. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: even if truth exists, it will not change your existence. It will not rescue you. It will not silence despair. You will still be fragile. You will still be temporary. You will still vanish, and the truth will not care. The paradox of happiness. You live as if happiness were a goal, as if it waits at the end of effort, as if it is something to be earned, achieved, possessed. You work for it, you plan for it, you sacrifice for it. But happiness is not a destination. It is a shadow. It appears when you stop chasing it and vanishes when you reach for it. Think of the moments when you were happiest. Were they the result of careful pursuit, or did they arrive unexpectedly, fragile, fleeting, unplanned? Laughter with a friend, a glance from someone you love, a quiet evening when the world seemed still. Happiness comes not when you demand it, but when you forget to seek it. This is the paradox. The more you chase happiness, the further it runs. When you think, am I happy now? The very act of questioning shatters it. When you cling to joy, fear of losing it poisons it. When you plan your life around happiness, you miss it in the moments where it quietly appears. The pursuit destroys the thing pursued. Philosophers saw this clearly. John Stuart Mill confessed, ask yourself whether you are happy, and you cease to be so. Schopenhauer sharpened the cruelty. Life swings between pain and boredom. Happiness is not permanent, it is only the brief silence between suffering. And the Stoics warned, happiness cannot be commanded. It appears only when you cease to cling. But you cannot resist, because society tells you to pursue happiness as if it were a product. Buy this, travel there, achieve this, and you will be happy. An entire industry thrives on selling you an illusion that evaporates the moment you grasp it, and still, you leave. Because to live without the hope of happiness feels unbearable, and yet, happiness remains unstable. Even when it comes, it fades. Even when it arrives, it dissolves. Even when you feel it, you know it will not last. Every joy is haunted by its own disappearance. This is why you fear happiness as much as you crave it, because in the very moment you hold it, you already grieve its loss. So what remains? You cannot command happiness. You cannot capture it. You cannot make it stay. At best, you glimpse it, a moment, a spark, a shadow, and then it vanishes, leaving you chasing again, endlessly, pointlessly. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: happiness cannot be pursued. It can only appear, briefly, accidentally, uncontrollably. And when you chase it, it dissolves. You're condemned to live in pursuit of something that flees the moment you notice it. And in that pursuit, you spend your life waiting, grasping, missing. The paradox of happiness is that the more you seek it, the more you ensure you will never find it. The theater of masks. You believe there is a real you hidden beneath the surface, a self untouched by roles, appearances, or expectations, a core that remains when all masks fall away. But life is not the discovery of a true self. Life is the endless wearing of masks, and after long enough, there may be nothing underneath. From the moment you are born, you are given roles: child, student, friend, worker, citizen. Each role comes with rules, ways of speaking, moving, thinking. You put on the masks, you learn to perform, and in performing, you become. At first, you believe the masks are temporary, that they cover something deeper, truer, that one day you will strip them off and reveal the real you. But the truth is darker. The masks do not cover you. They create you. You are what you perform. You become the roles you play. And the longer you wear them, the less you can tell where mask ends and self begins. This is why actors sometimes forget who they are. But it is not only actors, it is everyone. Because you too are acting every day, everywhere, smiling when expected, polite when demanded, confident when afraid. You perform versions of yourself for others, and after years, the performance is all that remains. Philosophers and sociologists saw this clearly. Nietzsche warned that truth itself is only a mobile army of metaphors, masks layered over chaos. Sartre declared that bad faith is to deny you are acting, to pretend the mask is not a mask. Irving Goffman described life as theater. Every interaction a stage, every person an actor, every role a script. You do not reveal yourself in life, you perform yourself. And yet, you cannot live without masks. If you strip them all away, what would remain? Not a true self, but emptiness. The self is not the thing behind the mask. The self is the mask, repeated until it hardens. This is why you sometimes feel like a stranger to yourself, because the masks shift. At work, one mask, with friends, another, with family, another still. And when you ask, which one is me? The answer is cruel. All of them and none of them. You are not a single self hidden behind masks. You are the shifting theater of masks itself. And when the performance stops, when you are alone, when no one is watching, you feel uneasy. Because without an audience, without a mask, you do not know who you are. The silence exposes the void beneath, and the void terrifies. So you rush back to the stage, back to the masks, back to the performance that sustains you. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this: there is no real you behind the roles. There is only the theater, only the performance, only the masks. And when the masks fall, nothing is revealed except the emptiness they were hiding all along. The silence after questions philosophy begins with questions. Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? What is truth? What is real? What is self? You ask. You dig. You demand answers. But every answer dissolves. You ask what the self is and find masks, fragments, illusions. You ask what truth is and find regress, language, silence. You ask what reality is and find dreams, perceptions, shadows. You ask what others are and find doubt, distance, emptiness. Each question peels back a layer. Each answer collapses into another question. And at the bottom, there are no answers, only exhaustion. only silence. This is the final trap of philosophy. The more you ask, the less you know. The more you dig, the more you uncover, not truth, but void. The more you seek, the more you realize there is nothing to be found. Every system fails, every comfort cracks, every illusion fades, and what remains is not revelation, but silence. This silence is unbearable because you wanted meaning, you wanted answers, you wanted certainty. But philosophy shows you the opposite. That meaning is collapse. That truth is endless regress. That existence just is without why. The silence is not ignorance. The silence is the truth. And yet, you cannot stop asking, even knowing that the questions collapse. You keep asking them. Even knowing that philosophy ends in silence, you keep speaking. Even knowing there are no answers, you demand them. Because to stop is to admit it fully, that there is nothing at the bottom. So you keep going. You pile words on words, systems on systems, illusions on illusions, and behind it all, the silence waits. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. Philosophy does not end in wisdom. It ends in silence. Because every question dissolves, every answer fails, every system collapses, and you are left staring into the void while hearing nothing but the silence that was always there. The silence you tried to bury with words, the silence you tried to escape with systems, the silence you tried to deny with hope, the silence after questions, the only truth, the final truth, the unbearable truth. The illusion of an ending, you live as if life were a story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. You imagine arcs, chapters, closures. You tell yourself that existence has shape, structure, meaning, but this is illusion. Life is not a story, and endings do not exist. Think of the day. You comfort yourself with its ending, nightfall, sleep, closure. But the day does not end. It only bleeds into the next. The hours dissolve into each other, time spilling forward without pause. Think of the seasons. Winter ends, spring begins, but the cycle never stops. No true closure, only repetition, endlessly looping. Think of your life. You imagine death as the final page, the closing of the book. But death is not punctuation. It is not a neat full stop. Death is dissolution. Your body breaks down, your name lingers briefly in memory, then memory fades, then silence, no ending, only disappearance. And yet you cling to endings. You need them. Because without them, chaos terrifies. If there are no endings, then there is no story. If there is no story, then there is no arc. If there is no arc, then everything feels meaningless, fragments scattered without resolution. Endings are not truth. They are anesthesia. They soothe you by pretending chaos is structured, that your suffering has purpose, that your life will one day make sense. But existence does not make sense. The universe does not grant resolution. There is no final chapter that ties together the threads, no grand conclusion that redeems what came before. Life simply stops mid-sentence, and everything you carried, your struggles, your victories, your loves, your despair, is erased, forgotten, absorbed into silence. The book does not close, it dissolves. Philosophy suffers the same illusion. Every system claims to be the last word, the final answer. Plato's forms, Kant's categories, Hegel's dialectic. Science itself promising the theory of everything, but every system collapses. Every ending gives way to more questions. Every final word is revealed as only another beginning. Philosophy never ends. It circles, it folds, it dissolves into silence. And here is the cruelty. Even if this ends, your questioning will not. Even if you feel closure now, it will dissolve the moment silence returns. Even if you want resolution, existence will not give it, because endings are only illusions, fragments of narrative you impose on chaos. The truth is rawer. Existence does not conclude. It dissipates, it fades, it vanishes without resolution. And yet you cannot live without the illusion, because without endings, there is no meaning. Without endings, there is only endless flux, endless becoming, endless unraveling. Without endings, you would collapse into despair, unable to hold your own story. So you tell yourself there is closure. You believe in the final chapter. You imagine the end, but it never comes. The deepest truth you cannot escape is this. Life has no ending, only illusions of endings. The story you cling to is a trick you tell yourself to survive. But the story is false. The book of existence does not end. It disintegrates. And you will not find the closure you crave, not in life, not in death, not in philosophy, only in silence.